Talked about in the book, joint mobility is a huge factor in health, performance, and longevity. And part of the reason for that is that moving the joints provides a very powerful neurological input because the joints are so neurologically rich. There's so many mechanoreceptors and different sensors in there. And part of the reason why is that our joints are among our most vulnerable areas in the body. Bones, can withstand forces, whereas joints the tendons and ligaments are a little bit easier to break. And so we spend a lot of energy, our brains and nervous systems spend a lot of energy and resources monitoring the joints. So there's a lot of very neurologically rich tissues there. We can get these very powerful inputs, and training the joints over time allows us to build up their resilience so that our connective tissues can get stronger over time. We can both neurologically learn how to move properly and stabilize ourselves and reduce the risk of injury or the severity of injury in different positions. And we can also build up the connective tissue so it gets stronger over time. So this is a follow along routine. I'm just going to show you a few reps of some of my favorite mobility exercises or joint mobilizations here. And there's many others you could do, but this is just a basic framework. I'm going to do a few reps of each. I encourage you to do as little as 5 of each, all the way up to 25 or 30. Or a good idea also is to do as many movements for each joint as you are years old. So if you're 62 years old, 62 movements of every joint every day is an amazing recipe for success and longevity. But we'll get started here. So we're going to start with the feet, and here is one that we're going to do. We're going to do a few of these toe pulls, mobilizing the arch and the top of the foot. So that's one, and then we can do it with the foot out here and with the foot in there on the big toe. In the beginning, you might need a little bit of padding under your foot. If you do it on a thick rug or carpet, or put a folded up towel or something underneath that big toe, sometimes you need that. Eventually, you'll probably adapt to it where you can do it just like this on the floor here. So that's the first one. Next one is going to be an ankle tilt. So we're making our way up from the toe up to the head and back out here. So we're going to do some ankle tilting to the outside and to the inside. I want to call your attention specifically to the outside, the lateral tilt here, because this is the most common mechanism of ankle sprain, the inversion. Someone jumps up and lands, a basketball player lands, or someone steps off a curb and lands in that inversion position. Most common mechanism of ankle sprain, where the ligaments on the outside of that ankle will be strained or torn. And one of the interesting things about this that we talk about in the book is that if you load this position, those connective tissues can get stronger over time, so they can withstand, those ligaments can actually withstand more force. They can get stronger just like our muscles can get stronger. They can get stronger, so they're less likely to tear or break if you find yourself in this position, not to mention also the neurological benefits of being better able to control the body in that position. So we did a little bit for the feet, the ankle. We'll go up to the knees. For the knees, doing some knee circles like this, like a hula hoop for the knees is a good one. And again, if you want to do more reps, you can pause any of these, and then we can get out into a lunge position and work on that, especially this valgus position with the foot rotated out and the knee coming in. That's a common place where injury happens. So just like with that ankle tilting, if we can work the knee in this position, we can build resilience to the injury, to injury in that position there. Now making our way up to the hips. We're going to do 2 movements for the hips. One is going to be an open chain movement, meaning that the leg that's working is not bearing weight, and then closed chain, meaning the leg is bearing weight. So for the open chain one, we're going to do hip circles in this position. We're going to go across into adduction. So if this is out in front, we're going to go across and do circles in that position there. And then we'll come straight in front, do circles there. And if this is at all challenging balance-wise, please hold on to a wall or a chair or something like that. We don't want it to be threatening. We're trying to reduce the perception of threat. We can go out to abduction, circles there, and then back into extension. And here we want to make sure it's not this movement, but we're bringing the hip back into extension there like that. So 5 to 50 circles in each position there. Coming up to the pelvis, working on doing some hula hoops with the pelvis here. And this is a combination of doing tilting and tucking like this, combination of that, plus the side to side movement. You can do those individually, side to side like a salsa dance sort of hip action. And then you can combine those into a circle there. Mobilizes the SI joint and of course also the hips and the lumbar spine. And then just for the hip joints, before we move on, a good closed chain movement for the hip joints. One of my favorites is to do, sometimes they're called hip airplanes, basically a closed chain internal and external rotation movement. So it's an airplane because you often will go out like this. So we're going to go internal rotation there, external there, internal there, external there. A few of those on each hip. Really, really good to work that internal external rotation, also the balance and stability. Great exercise there. Now, working our way up, we're going to do lumbar circles. So we're working the lumbar spine here. And for this, we're going to be keeping the pelvis still and doing a big circle here. If you're having trouble feeling it, you can go back against the wall and keep your sacrum, the bottom of your spine, keep that pressed into the wall, and then just imagine there's a wall behind me here. I mean, there's a wall behind me, but imagine I'm up against the wall. And you could just go down like this here and focus on that front half of the circle in flexion and work on doing that. But that's going to mobilize that lumbar spine. Working our way up. For the thoracic spine, there's a few movements we can do here. One is to hold the arms out on a horizontal line and mobilize like that. That's a good one there. And then work on rotation, trying to keep the hips and belly button facing forward and just rotate the thoracic spine like that. So you're not getting as far as if you get the whole body into it, right? Because you're just really working on getting that thoracic spine there. Up to the cervical spine and the neck. A couple different ones we can do. We can look side to side. We can tilt side to side. And then translate forward and back here. Also, a little more challenging is to move side to side like this and combine those into a circle. If you couple this with the hip movement here, you can get quite the dance move going. So we got that there. Now we'll go back out, down to the shoulders, shoulder blades, and the arms. So for the shoulder blades, there's a couple here that we can do. One is to really isolate the movement of the shoulder blades. This is like a camshaft, like a wheel on a train, a locomotor wheel. So shoulder blades going up, back, down, forward, up, back, down, forward. Elevate, retract, depress, protract, and then you can switch directions there. I'm showing one at a time because there is value in doing one at a time so the brain can pay attention to one thing and kind of learn it better. But as you get proficient, doing both at a time is okay as well. So you can play around with that. And then we'll go to the shoulder joints here. So for the shoulders, a couple different things we can do. One of my favorites that we talk about in the book is how a lot of people lose the ability to get the arms up fully overhead and because we don't hang from tree branches or things anymore. So hanging at the bottom of a pull-up position, assuming your shoulders can tolerate it, is wonderful. If it's difficult, you can do it with some weight supports. Your feet can be on the ground, or you can use one of those machines at the gym that supports some of your weight in a pull-up position, but literally just hanging at the bottom can be excellent for the shoulders, as well as some of these mobilizations here. We're going to do circles for the shoulders that are very similar to what we did with the hip, reaching across here and then up overhead, circles here. It's not like this, like a rodeo. It's elbows straight, so we're moving the shoulder. And then out here, same thing, circles in abduction, and then back in shoulder extension there. I'm making a light fist. You can have your fingers straight. Just try to keep the hand relaxed there. So that's a couple different options for shoulders. We can also do big shoulder circles like you're doing a backstroke or like you're doing a butterfly swimming stroke. Good movements there. For the elbows, we can do elbow circles. So now it's more like we're doing that lasso rodeo style movement here. Elbow circles both directions up here, and then on the underside as well. For this one, imagine you have a cup of water in your hand. You're trying to pass it off to someone over there without spilling it. Go back like that. This could be another dance move here. So we got that. And now down to the wrist and hand. So again, there's many that we can do. I'm just trying to show you some of my top favorites to give you something where you can follow along here and just get a really good, healthy routine. 10 minutes in the morning when you first wake up of doing this, or before a workout, or even before bed. It can be really good because it can both energize you and give you that neurological input to turn on and activate, but that neurological input can also be calming, and it can be some benefits at the end of the day too. It's sort of like a what's the word for those adaptogenic, the substances that can kind of pick you up when you need it or calm you down when you need it. The neurological input, kind of like that. So going down to the wrist, we can do some wrist circles, and most people just do wrist circles like this. I'm going to suggest you do them where you actually move the forearm and hand in opposite directions. So forearm is going up as the hand goes down, forearm in as the hand out, forearm down as the hand up, forearm out as the hand goes in. Because the wrist is the junction between the forearm and the hand. And so if you move both, you end up getting a little more movement in the wrist, and it's a nice coordination challenge. So while you're doing this, make sure you're not gritting your teeth or doing weird things with your face, because some people need to do that to create the neurological input to drive this movement because of a lack of motor control. But you don't want to become dependent on your face maneuvering into a certain position to drive movement in your wrist, for example, right? That's a connection we do not wish to make for efficient movement and not looking super weird. So that's one for the wrists. Another one we can do is these figure 8 positions. So when I do it in this direction, I'm mobilizing the pinky side of the wrist where the ulna meets that metacarpal there. And then if I go the other direction, I'm mobilizing the thumb side where the base of that metacarpal meets the radius, that part of the wrist. Good to do both. And then onto the fingers. We spend so much time with, making a grip and with our hands closed. So working on opening the fingers is really important. So my favorite 2 for doing that, one is to extend the fingers one knuckle at a time. So with your other finger or a pen or something, imagine you're pulling up like that. Pulling that hand up so it'll look like this, and you can get the thumb involved too. So we're doing extension of the fingers, opening the fingers. Helps get the hand open. And another one is to spread and squeeze the fingers like that. So again, there are many movements, many ways to mobilize, but working on the joints has a lot of value. Challenging the connective tissue in these different positions, loading it can help it strengthen over time, has a lot of value. And just doing this movement, because remember, use it or lose it is real. If we only use our hands and arms in this position, for example, for driving, eating, typing, we're going to eventually lose this back here. We eventually lose all of those. So very important that we move and maintain or improve our range over time, and hopefully a sequence like this will help you do that.